Jenna sat on the edge of her bed in her apartment on South Congress, 2 blocks from the coffee shop she always meant to try, but never visited. When she glanced up, she saw her own face floating in the glass, ghostly and unfamiliar. Anything. She felt nothing. So she did what she always did when she felt nothing. She cleaned. 11:52 p.m. now. But then they came home. They closed the door. They sat on their expensive couches in their expensive apartments, with their expensive degrees. Jenna didn't know this statistic. She didn't need to. She lived it every day. 12:23 a.m. The kitchen was clean. The bathroom was clean. The living room was clean. Her hands smelled like vinegar and bleach and lemon-scented dish soap. She stood in the middle of her apartment, surrounded by evidence of her productivity, and felt the familiar tightness settle into her chest. Not a panic attack. She knew what those felt like. This was different. This was the slow, constant pressure of a life that fit perfectly and still pinched in all the wrong places. She picked up her phone, opened Instagram, closed it, opened Twitter, closed it, opened her email and stared at the unread count. 8:47 now. She closed the app, without opening any of them. At 12:47, she got into bed. Her body was exhausted. Her brain was still scrubbing grout. She lay on her back, staring at the ceiling, listening to her neighbor's dog bark at something that probably wasn't there. Tomorrow she would wake up at 7:15. She would shower. She would make coffee. She would sit at her desk and open her laptop and join her first Zoom meeting at 9 a.m. She would be competent and professional, and no one would know that 12 hours ago she was scrubbing on her kitchen floor with a toothbrush at midnight because she'd gotten a bonus and felt nothing. This was her life. This was the life she'd built. This was the life she was supposed to be grateful for. She was so tired. Let me tell you about someone else. His name is David. He's 34, lives in Chicago, works in software sales. He makes $187,000 a year. He has a wife he loves, and a daughter who just turned 2, and a mortgage on a 3-bedroom house in Lincoln Park. that he's pretty sure he can't actually afford, but somehow keeps paying every month. David's problem isn't that he's failing. David's problem is that he's succeeding at the wrong things. He wakes up at 5:45 every morning because his daughter wakes up at 5:45 every morning. He makes her bottles, changes her diapers, watches Ms. Rachel on YouTube while she eats her scrambled eggs. He's at his desk by 8:30. He takes calls until 5:00. He has dinner with his family. He puts his daughter to bed. He answers emails from 8 to 10:00. He falls asleep on the couch, watching shows he doesn't care about. He wakes up at 5:45 and does it again. He's good at his job. He's a good husband. He's a good father. He's doing everything right. And every night after his daughter is asleep and his wife is reading in bed and the house is finally quiet, he sits on his couch and opens his laptop and looks at the folder labeled Novel. He's been working on this novel for 6 years. He's written 47,000 words. He's rewritten the first 3 chapters 17 times. He's never shown it to anyone. He doesn't know why he keeps it. He doesn't know why he opens it every night just to stare at the file name. He doesn't know why he spent 6 years writing and deleting and rewriting the same 3 chapters. He just knows that when he looks at that folder, he feels something he doesn't feel anywhere else. Hope, maybe. Or maybe just the ghost of it. Here's the lie that Jenna and David and 73% of high-income millennials have been sold. The lie is that your life is a checklist. Graduate, get the job, get the better job, meet someone, buy the place, hit the number, check the box, move to the next box. The lie is that the feeling you're waiting for, the satisfaction, the relief, the sense of finally arriving, will appear automatically once you've checked enough boxes. That fulfillment is a mathematical function of achievement. That if you just keep optimizing, keep grinding, keep hustling, you'll eventually feel whole. The lie is that the problem is you. You're not working hard enough. You're not grateful enough. You're not disciplined enough. You're not enough. Jenna believed this lie. David believed this lie. You probably believe this lie, too. But here's what Jenna discovered at 1:15 a.m. on that Tuesday night in October, standing in front of her refrigerator with a bottle of Windex and a roll of paper towels, finally noticing the whiteboard that had said, "Week of Jan 17" for 9 months. She didn't discover it in a book, or a podcast, or a TED Talk. She discovered it because she was so exhausted from pretending that the truth just slipped out. She said it out loud, to no one, in her empty apartment at 1 in the morning. "I don't want to be optimized. I want to be alive." The words hung in the air for a long time. She didn't know what she meant by them. Not exactly. She just knew that every system she'd built to manage her life had become a cage. Every habit she'd cultivated to be more productive had become a ritual she performed without meaning. Every goal she'd achieved had turned to ash in her hands. She wanted to feel something again. Not the hollow satisfaction of checking a box, not the temporary dopamine hit of a notification, not the numb comfort of a clean kitchen at midnight. Something real, something messy, something that wasn't curated and optimized and sanitized for public consumption. She wanted to write the email she'd been drafting in her head for 3 years. The one about the business she was too afraid to start. The one about the problem she'd spent 3 years researching and 0 years solving. The one that began with, "I do not have a prototype or a logo or any idea what I'm doing, but I think I can help." She wanted to be the kind of person who sent that email, the kind of person who started before she was ready, the kind of person who risked failure instead of just preparing for success. She wanted to be the kind of person who changed the date on the whiteboard. Jenna put down the Windex. She walked to her desk. She opened her laptop. The cursor blinked at her. Steady, patient, waiting. She opened a new email. She stared at the blank "to" field. She didn't know who to send it to. She didn't know what to say. She didn't know if she was brave enough to hit send, even if she figured out both of those things. Because here is what rarely gets said in those rooms. Sometimes your pain isn't to wound to be healed. Sometimes your pain is a shield you're holding, and you're gripping it so tight your knuckles are white, convinced it's protecting you, when really it's just heavy. Jenna didn't know she was holding a shield. She thought she was being diligent. She had 47 podcast summaries saved in a folder called Inspiration. She'd listened to every episode of every Founder Story podcast for 3 years straight. She could tell you exactly how Brian Chesky pitched Airbnb. She knew the exact date Sarah Blakely cut the feet off her pantyhose. She had memorized the failure stories, the comeback stories, the overnight success, actually 15 years stories. She was an expert on other people's courage, and every night she'd close her laptop, look at the chipped girl boss mug, and feel the familiar tightness in her chest. The shame, the quiet whisper, "You're not doing enough. You're not brave enough. You're not enough." But here's the trick. The shame doesn't want you to notice. Jenna wasn't afraid of failing. She was afraid of finishing, because if she finished, if she actually launched the thing, built the prototype, sent the email, asked for the sale, then there would be evidence, real evidence, not hypotheticals in a binder, real feedback from real humans. And real feedback might include the words, "no," or "not interested," or "who are you?" again. And that scared her more than anything. So she kept preparing. Because preparing feels like progress. Preparing lets you tell yourself you're working on your goals. Preparing keeps you safe inside the swamp, building little structures out of research documents and color-coded spreadsheets, never actually walking toward the castle, because what if the castle gates don't open for someone like you? This is the identity trap. It's not that you don't want to succeed. It is that you've built your entire identity around being the person who is about to succeed. The promising one, the one with potential. Potential is comfortable. Potential doesn't reject you. Actualization, that's terrifying. I asked Jenna once in March when we first started working together. I asked her a question that made her go very quiet. I said, "If you knew, absolutely knew that your business would fail in 6 months, would you still start it today?" She didn't answer for 23 seconds. I counted. Then she said, "No, what would be the point?" And there it was. The whole trap, laid bare in 8 words. She wasn't building a business. She was building a guaranteed return. She wasn't creating value. She was trying to purchase validation. She wanted a receipt, a proof of purchase that said, "You are worthy." That's not entrepreneurship. That's therapy with extra steps. Here's what I want you to notice about Jenna's apartment that Tuesday night. The binders were on the desk, yes, but also on the floor by the bed was a Pilates reformer, covered in laundry. In the kitchen, a soda stream with a dusty canister. On the nightstand, a library book checked out 14 weeks ago, bookmark still at page 27. She wasn't just stuck in her business. She was stuck everywhere. Because the identity trap isn't compartmentalized. You don't have one belief about yourself at work and another belief about yourself at home. You have one belief about yourself. Period. And Jenna believed, deep down in the place she didn't talk about at dinner parties, that she wasn't the kind of person who finished things. She was the kind of person who started, who planned, who researched, who dreamed. But finishing? That was for other people. People with more time, more talent, more something. People who deserved to have their dreams come true. She never said that out loud. She didn't have to. Her spreadsheet said it for her. This is why traditional advice fails people like Jenna. When you tell a perfectionist, just start, they hear, just do it poorly. And their entire nervous system rejects the instruction. Starting poorly feels like a violation of their identity. They are good students. Good students don't turn in messy work. But here's what Jenna didn't realize until much later. Good students don't turn in anything at all if they never finish the assignment. The trap isn't that you're lazy. The trap is that you've mistaken self-protection for self-improvement. You think you're sharpening the axe. You've been sharpening it for 4 years. The tree is still standing. The axe handle is worn smooth from your grip. At some point, you have to admit you're not preparing to cut wood. You're just polishing a tool in the dark. The turning point for Jenna didn't come from a podcast or a book or a breakthrough insight. It came from her refrigerator. Specifically, it came from a whiteboard magnet she bought at H-E-B in 2022. One of those little meal planning boards. She'd written week of Jan 17 on it and never erased it. For almost 2 years, that whiteboard had said week of Jan 17. She walked past it every single day. She never changed it. One night, she stood in front of the refrigerator with a paper towel and a bottle of Windex. She sprayed the board. She wiped it clean. And she stood there, looking at the blank white rectangle. No date, no plan, just empty space. She started crying. Not because she was sad, because she realized she'd been walking past that date for 23 months, and she'd never once thought, I could just change it. It had never occurred to her. She was living in a world where things stayed the way they were forever. That's when she finally said it out loud. I'm waiting for permission. Not from an investor, not from a mentor, not from her parents, permission from herself. And she'd been waiting so long she forgot she was the one holding the key. Here's the thing about permission. You don't receive it. You grant it.
Jenna opened her laptop that night. She didn't open the competitive landscape spreadsheet. She opened a new document. She typed the words, minimum viable product, and then deleted them because they sounded like corporate jargon, and she was so tired of corporate jargon. She typed the thing I'm building. Then she deleted that too. Then she typed, Hi, I'm Jenna. I've spent 3 years planning a business that helps working moms organize their family schedules. I don't have an app. I don't have a prototype. I don't even have a logo. But I have a spreadsheet that tells me exactly what your pain points are, and I think I can help. Do you have 15 minutes this week to tell me if I'm wrong? She sent that email to one person, a friend of a friend, a mom she'd never met. It took her 47 minutes to write those 4 sentences. She got a reply at 6:14 the next morning. The woman said yes. That was 18 months ago. Jenna's business is not a unicorn. She didn't get on Shark Tank. She didn't make the Forbes 30 under 30 list. But she has 43 recurring clients and a wait list of 12 more. She worked from home, but now her desk faces the window. The Girl Boss mug broke when she dropped it moving her binders to storage. She didn't replace it. She still has the whiteboard on her refrigerator. Now it says, Thursday, call Maria, if you're reading this, and you recognize yourself in any part of Jenna's story, I need you to understand something. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not lazy or undisciplined or lacking some essential quality that successful people have. You are protecting yourself from a pain you haven't admitted yet. The pain of trying and failing. The pain of being seen. The pain of finally knowing, one way or another, whether you're as good as you hope you are. But here's what Jenna learned, standing in front of that refrigerator with a Windex bottle. The pain of staying the same hurts more. It just hurts slower. So slow, you don't even notice its pain anymore. You call it realistic. You call it waiting for the right time. You call it being practical. You call it anything except what it is. You are the only one who can grant yourself permission to leave the swamp. The castle gates are not locked. They never were. You've just been standing at the door, waiting for someone to open it, not realizing the handle is on your side. You don't need a better plan. You don't need one more podcast. You don't need to fix everything about yourself before you're allowed to start. You just need to send the email, ugly, imperfect, terrifying, and then send another one tomorrow. That's it. That's the whole secret. That's how you stop being the person who is about to live and start being the person who is living. The binders can stay on the shelf for now. The spreadsheets can wait. The research is already done maybe years ago, maybe enough to get started, maybe more than enough. The only thing missing is your name on the dotted line. Permission granted. The email sat in Jenna's drafts folder for 3 days. She opened it Tuesday morning at 7:14, right after her coffee finished brewing. Read it, closed it, opened it again Wednesday at 9:47, during a slow moment in a Zoom meeting where her camera was off. Closed it, Thursday night, 11:08 p.m. She had it open on her phone while lying in bed. The screen brightness turned all the way down so the light wouldn't keep her awake. 4 sentences. 47 words. She knew every comma by heart. Hi, I'm Jenna. I've spent 3 years planning a business that helps working moms organize their family schedules. I don't have an app. I don't have a prototype. I don't even have a logo. But I have a spreadsheet that tells me exactly what your pain points are, and I think I can help. Do you have 15 minutes this week to tell me if I'm wrong? She typed it so fast that first night, her fingers barely keeping up with her brain. The words had poured out like water from a cracked pipe. No filter, no polish. Just the raw, embarrassing truth of where she actually was. And then she'd read it back and felt her stomach drop. I don't have an app. I don't have a prototype. I don't even have a logo. Who sends an email like that? Who admits out loud in writing that they've spent 3 years on something and have nothing to show for it? Who volunteers their own inadequacy to a complete stranger? Jenna lay in bed that Thursday night, the phone warm against her palm, and tried to convince herself that deleting the draft was the smart move. The professional move. You don't lead with weakness. You lead with confidence. You wait until you have something real to offer. But something she'd heard earlier that week kept circling back, a line from a podcast she put on just to fall asleep. The guest was some founder she'd never heard of, talking about something she couldn't even remember now. Except for this one sentence, the ego hates the imperfect start. She'd sat up in bed when she heard it. Rewound 10 seconds, listened again. The ego hates the imperfect start. Not fears, not avoids, hates, like an enemy. Like something to be destroyed. Jenna thought about her 3 binders, her 47 podcast summaries, her color-coded spreadsheets with the drop-down menus and conditional formatting. All that meticulous, beautiful, useless work. Her ego loved every page of it. Because the binders never wrote back, the spreadsheets never said no. The research never looked at her with pity or confusion or, worst of all, indifference. The research just sat there, quiet and safe, waiting for her to add more rows. The email was different. The email could reply.
Here's something nobody warns you about. We talk about the courage of starting. Hi, Jenna, it read. This is such a kind email. Thanks for watching, and remember that sometimes the most real questions are the ones you're afraid to ask. Follow for more stories about the journey.